So I've been seeing this article popping up in a few different places from Robert Fripp, and I guess you'd call him like a prog rock monument, a monolith. He was in the band King Crimson, and they sort of were there at the very start of progressive rock. And he's recently come out as saying that he uses both Line 6 and Axe Effects, which is interesting, isn't it? And what he was saying in this interview with Guitarist was, whatever guitar, whatever amp I'm using, I'll get my sound. Here's an example of this. I went to see Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea at Carnegie Hall. Wow, breathtaking. Herbie Hancock on the left. They changed places and played, and their sounds went with them. I just don't understand that. How can that be? It cannot be the sound of the piano changes. The sound of the piano is the sound of a piano, surely. I guess what he's saying about is that each of them took their characteristics and phrasing and touch and all that, and it still sounded like Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea, no matter which piano they were on. And you can extend that out a bit. Like, I think there's definitely a thing where concert pianists and jazz pianists and all of that sort of stuff, they kind of, the piano stays at the venue in a lot of these cases, right? And so a player doesn't have their own piano necessarily that goes on tour with them. Like, they play whatever's in the venue, for better or for worse. And, you know, when I did piano exams as a kid, you'd turn up and it wouldn't be that you take your own piano, you're just playing on whatever's there. And sometimes the touch would be completely different to the one at home. Like, a piano key can be like sort of hardish to press down, or, you know, have a bit of play. Or, you know, there was one time that I played on a piano and suddenly the touch was, it was such like a light action. It was kind of the opposite to what I'm used to, but that idea exists in other places, right? The idea, and you're not going to bring a piano, you just bring yourself to the piano or whatever. With Crimson, I use Axe Effects, which is very good. For basic work that I can carry myself without a team of engineers, I use a Helix. Why? Because Jacko uses a Helix, and if you're working in a band with another character, you aim for compatibility. The other thing is, he can tell me how to work it. What was interesting to that about me is it was sort of echoing what I've been experimenting with this week, and the kind of overall thing that I've been doing this week is sort of building a preset that is stereo amps and with two kind of separate effects chains that are similar but slightly distinct to get like a big stereo feel. This started off in Helix World, and I did it with two litigators. Then yesterday I did a quad cortex video where I used a bassman on either side. And I've come back to Helix this morning, and the idea will be to have a bassman on one side and a litigator on the other for a slightly, hopefully, wider stereo thing, because they're going to be slightly different again. But that's the idea, like, you know, any idea that works on Helix or Axe Effects, in theory, these should work across other devices as well, because if they're emulating similar things, you know, each model of a tube screamer should sound within a certain area of tolerance. And this is the thing that I've done, you know, like building Andy Timmons' rig within each device and seeing what comes out. It may not be exactly the same each time, but the results for me generally have been pretty pleasant, and at least a tone that is enjoyable to play. And I think that's the main thing that we're looking for with a modeler, right? It's kind of trying to get the tones that you want out of the thing, or something that is enjoyable to play, rather than endless A-B comparisons. The experience of most of us, I guess, is that we have a modeler, and the task is to try and get your tone out of that thing. It isn't to say, right, I've got my tone out of this thing, now I want to compare it to another thing. It's more about getting to grips with the thing. So I'm saying, essentially, if you're on this channel and you see me using any modeler, the modeler doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot. The same kind of principles could be applied with another modeler. So if I'm building an Andy Timmons rig in the Helix, you could try and replicate it in the Hotone Ampero in theory, and it should, I think, sound pretty good. None of these things sound totally different to each other. They are just digital recreations, for better or for worse, of real life things that most of us don't have access to. So yeah, instead of competing for modeler superiority, I'm more interested in trying to find good tones out of each of them, probably. So that's what I'm doing here. Now I'm just going to show you this tone that I'm talking about and run you through some of the ideas, but I was quite yeah, so let's just dive into this and I'll just show you what's going on in the preset. Leave a comment below as well if you've got some thoughts on this. Is Robert Fripp barking up the wrong tree, or is he onto something? You know, what is your voice? Are you able to get your tones out of the modeler that you're working with? If the answer to that is no, then maybe you could consider jumping across the pond to a different kind of modeling device. But what I've found more or less is that I could be roughly happy with either a fractal device or a helix device generally, because they have the switching kind of feature set that I'm looking for. I use the helix most of all because I find it the easiest to work with. But yeah, it's less about superiority of one device or the other and more about this is how I build the stuff on it, and this is the stuff that I like to play on it. Let's jump in front of the thing. Okay, so if you haven't seen the video already about the stereo kind of Dumble amps, that might be worth looking at because it's basically exactly the same preset. The only changes that I've made, so what we got going on up here, this path here, guitar in, Kinky Boost, Diana Drive, Zen Drive, into Line 6 Litigator, into low high shelf to boost the low end a bit, into a dual amp, dual cab, so Fullerton and Cali 4, into a transistor tape delay, into a shimmer. The shimmer is controlled by the expression pedal, and that goes out and is panned fully left. This one's panned fully right, and then Kinky Boost again, a Scream 808 tube screamer to give us a bit of differentiation from this signal path, and then a Tweed Blues normal, which I think is based on the Fender Bassman from the Tweed era, which is where Dumble kind of got his original inspiration from. Drive at 4, bass at 6, mids at 7, treble at 3, presence off. The bright switch switches the presence up to 3 on both here and here, if you want to try that. And then same stuff again, but I'm going into a glitz reverb just to preserve some of the DSP. Kinky Boost here. Just loads of body. Go over to our drive. This kicks on the gain stage in front of the amp. So yeah, that's kind of that tone. I think I'm going to experiment with this as an idea a little bit more. It's not the most efficient way to build a preset, but it is, I think, quite a cool way to have this idea in your head of a fully kind of dual rig setup where you've got alternate drive options in front of each amp. I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you want me to drop this into the folder of Doom. I'll be happy to do so. I'll catch you in another video soon. Yeah. What do you think about Robert Fripp's thoughts? Cheers.